So what do you think of this then? If our craft is not something that is highly dependent on technology and also not really highly fueled by technology, and I mean literally the artisan's segment, so not the ready to wear or the made to measure, but really the
Yeah.
handcrafted one. And the main majority of the techniques are kind of like on average as good as one can get. What does that what makes then what becomes really important in our craft, do you think? If technology is not the pushing factor and it's also not the thing that is dictating the craft, and the techniques are kind of like as good as they can get on average, then what is there to aspire to, kind of, you think, within the domain of bespoke handcrafted tailoring?
What do you mean by aspire to?
So, for example, if you look at,
As in the quality of the work, or as an individual tailor? What are they aspiring to be in the
well,
in the industry?
anything, whatever you interpret my question to be in that direction. I mean, you can take it anywhere you want. I mean, look, if you look at, for example, you look at, let's take a simple, let's say road building, for example, right? I mean, I don't know much about road building, but I can assume that one of the things that would have severe impact on it is what kind of new materials do they discover? How can they process those materials into the most efficient road building way they can? And so they would probably aspire to increase efficiency, reduce material costs, and develop new materials, for example, roughly speaking. Right? What do you think in our case would be the thing to aspire to as an industry, as a craft? Like, what is
Well,
the
then,
highest thing we value in tailoring?
well, okay. So I think that you're overlaying two different ideas,
Mm-hmm.
because while I do believe that the best artisans
Mm-hmm.
in our field have been able to nearly perfect
Mm-hmm.
what is possible, that doesn't mean everyone can actually achieve that level of perfection. So, as an individual,
Mm-hmm.
everyone is just trying to hit that mark,
The mastery
which is,
mark.
yeah, which is incredibly difficult to do in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that is an ambition, just to get to the level
Mm-hmm.
that they might want to be at, because
Mm-hmm.
there are different qualities of tailors in our industry, just like there is different qualities of chefs in the food industry, different levels of surgeons in medicine.
Yes.
You get these incredible surgeons who are going to be able to do the most complicated surgeries, and you get
Mm-hmm.
some surgeons that might have issues with liability cases.
Mm-hmm.
The same is true for tailoring. You start out in tailoring as someone who's never probably held a needle or picked up chalk.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lifelong process to even try to touch that level of perfection that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm. What would you say makes tailoring? What I'm trying to. It's too abstract for me. Not your answer, but what I'm trying to figure out is a bit too abstract for me, and so I'd like to explore that with you, actually. So, when you look at, for example, great painters, what they are trying to do, for example, is, and I'm talking about classical painters. What they're trying to do is they are trying to kind of like portray an idea through their paintings, while at the same time achieve a high level of technical ability to use that then to improve, or tell the story better, kind of, right? You look at a
Mm-hmm.
painting and you think, had this painter had a bit more technical abilities, this painting would have been so much better. Or maybe not, I don't know, that's subjective, right? What do you think that we are trying to do as tailors? I mean, you could easily say, we're trying to create a certain shape, perhaps, or give the best fit for that specific figure. What do you think is beyond that? Like, what are we really trying? The ones that are really OCD.
But the thing is that, okay, so again, I think that there is a fault in that question because I don't think there is a single purpose.
Well, lay out a few. You could lay out a few. What do you think?
We make suits for people who have issues with their body image. So you might we'll have a client who just wants to feel like they look better than they see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That client, even though we care about the quality, might not care about the quality of the make, or that it is hand padded versus machine padded, or that it is hand buttonholes versus machine buttonholes.
Mm-hmm.
If you can make them feel, if you can fill them with confidence when they walk into a room or walk out of the tailor shop, then the objective for that individual suit has been met.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that might not be the case for everyone. If you have someone who has has no body issues or self-confidence issues, they might want something that is the manifestation of their social status.
Mm-hmm.
So you might want someone who only cares about the most expensive cloths, the Super 180s, the cashmere overcoats, Vicuña, blazers, because it's not about a physical kind of self-conscious element. It's about wanting to prove they have the means to buy these things. Mm-hmm. You have other people who just love the craft, who just love the make, and who you've told me about a client who just loves your process and could just hang out with you all day while you make. That's a different objective. We, as tailors, are tasked with understanding what each client has as their objective and overlaying that with our own set of principles. So if you come across a guy who you could, spit and polish a suit together, but it will look good on him and he'll feel like $1 million, you wouldn't compromise the quality of your make, but you would just have to amalgamate those two objectives.
Does that sound a little bit like almost like wish fulfillment for a particular need and a particular person with a certain given technique or craft?
In a way, yeah. I think there was a coat maker who once described cutters and tailors as commercial artists. And that term always stuck with me because he said we aren't able to just create anything.
Yeah, for the sake of creation. Yeah.
Like a painter who might just be inspired by their muse or a landscape. We have to make something that fits the specifications of the individual. And in our case, the individual has to wear this in society. So we have a lot of parameters when we make our clothing.
And that distinguishes tailors from fashion designers because they can't just create for the sake of creation, right?
Some fashion designers can, others can't. If you're a head designer at J. Crew or Gap, and you want a high street brand, Hackett, you can't just create for the sake of creating. If you're designing a haute couture range, then you can be more free. But again, going back to other industries, the same is true for food. If you walked into some haute cuisine restaurant with a 3-year waiting list, you're expecting to be wowed, and you are expected to allow the chef to release their creativity. That's not the same as walking into Nando's.
No.